Well, hello and welcome to another whiskey review with me, the Whiskey Novice. Thank you for joining me once again for review number 150. We are still poking and poking around in my cabinets looking for miscellaneous malts that just didn't fit anywhere else. So we're just going to review them in a group. Why the hell not? And this time we're back to Islay for the turn of Kilchoman, still a relatively young distillery, which is why most of their stuff, you will find stuff maybe bottled for other regions, etc., with an age statement on them. Most of them are still sort of non-age stated bottlings, and this one's a prime example. The Sanaig, probably actually a 4 to 5 year old whiskey, is what I read. Was a 70% ex Oloroso, 30% ex bourbon maturation, 50 ppm. So that's pretty much the details. Non-shelf filtered, no colour added, bottled at 46%. That was easy. Bottled at 46%. So look, it's all singing, all dancing. I was a huge fan of the Ardbeg, and it actually suggested to me then. I also like a peated whiskey, which has some form of ex-sherry maturation in there, be it finish, be it full, So it was suggested to me then, if I liked the Ardbeg, then I would like the Sanaig. I will say, before we get too far into this, that for the most part of this bottle, I wasn't impressed. So let's then get into it, shall we? Big, bold, salted caramel festival at a bonfire. If this was bottled by the SMWS, that's what it would be called. Big, bold, salted caramel festival at a bonfire. Because that's what it is. And I must admit, it's nice. It is nice initially on the nose. Peanuts, or even chocolate covered peanuts. I'm not going down, and everybody seems to think now that I'm just going down this, I'm just rhyming off things in the candy store. Now I'm in the cinema. Burnt out bonfire, burnt out damp wood. Toffee slab, that hard toffee. This does for me. I find it very difficult sometimes, and I recently proved this in a blind sampling. Sometimes it's actually quite difficult blind to differentiate between Kilchoman and Ardbeg. Now don't shoot me down, please. I'm sure there's people out there screaming and going, how could you confuse a Kilchoman with an Ardbeg? But it just blind. There's enough of that damp earthiness, burnt out bonfire earthiness and toffee. And as I described, whenever I'm talking about Ardbeg in particular, high points and low points, all good points. But just when I'm talking about high points and low points, if I talk about a high point, I mean something sweet, I mean something sharp, I mean something citrusy, something like that. When I talk about a low point, I mean something boggy, something dirty, something smoky. So Kilchoman does the same for me as Ardbeg does, where there's, for every sweet point or high point, there's a point of filth, bog, dirt, smoke, something like that. And as I said, no good, no bad points, just high points and low points. It's in my head, trust me, it makes sense. Cinnamon and some pencil shavings. It's a good nose. It's a bit, some mineral going on, some sulfur going on, and it's hints like that appeared to me an awful lot stronger earlier in this bottle, which were putting me off it. I found the sulfur quite strong in this. I found the mineral thing quite strong in this for most of this bottle. This sat for a long time on my shelf with air in it. There's not a lot in this bottle, as you can see. This will not be around much longer. But it has done well. It has got better, in my opinion. And it's the palate that's winning out. Surprisingly soft, with nice sharp tinges, sweet and sour, even bittersweet. Arrival. It's creamy and coating. There are loads and loads of tangy notes all around the outside edge. And this lovely, soft, buttery darkness through the middle. So if you can imagine it, it really does. All the tanginess, all the sharpness, there's citrus notes, orange, lemon, lime. Lime, yes, definitely. And it rushes to the back and to the outside. And then it's just followed by this lovely, creamy, buttery, toffee thing running clean through the middle of it. And when you spend time with it, the smoke plays in along with you. Just know the smoke's in there. This is almost, I would suggest, now, only now, because as I said, for a long time it didn't work for me. This is almost balanced to perfection now for a peated whiskey with sherry influence. And as I said, it's not just influence. This is 70% ex-Oloroso cask, 30% ex-bourbon cask. So it's kind of heavy on the ex-Oloroso. Keep returning to it. That creamy butteriness, and now the nuttiness that I got in the nose is in there as well. Starts to not overwhelm, but it starts to overrule the tangier notes, the brighter notes. I said a moment ago about the ex-Oloroso influence on it. The ex-Oloroso influence then takes over. And as much as the smoke is still there, the sherry is playing its part now. Yeah, it's dark, fruity, but weirdly not fruit cakey. It's cinnamon and orange, clove. It becomes a little hot burnt toast. Yeah, it is. Yeah, definitely burnt toast. It's good though. It is good. That finish is long. There's enough of that fruit going through there to hang on in the finish. There's enough of the smoke still in there, hanging on in the finish. So it's a good long, what I would consider a good long, effective finish, I suppose is one way you could put it. I'm going to add some water. It can take it. I'll not add a whole lot. Just while that's settling a moment, I thought about this bottle and I thought, would I replace it? And the answer was no. Probably based down to about here, to about the bottom of the label, my answer would have been no. I was actually very disappointed, considering I'll not name who it was that suggested to me that I would like it. Doesn't matter really, but I just was surprised that I didn't get blown away by it. And not even blown away, but I actually found it a bit off-putting, a bit, I didn't visit it an awful lot. Say I did have this bottle quite a while. If I could just come in about here, probably, but I'm now, I wouldn't have replaced it, but now I'm sort of tempted to replace it just to see. And I may actually replace it before I finish it, just to see how much it has changed. So what about that nose? Now I'm getting hints of ground coffee, or even freeze-dried coffee, and toffee apple, brown sugar. So there's rich, dark sweetness coming through in that nose now. Oh yeah. Yeah, the palate really balanced. Whereas I said earlier on about that tanginess split with the creaminess, which worked, it did definitely work. Now all that is balanced, so it's all coming through as one almost. So it's this smoky, salty, caramelly, toffee, buttery thing. Even pipe tobacco. Yeah, it's good. It is good. Finish remains long. That takes a tinge of the heat out of it, so it's more palatable and more favourable. Look, I would, if I'd have reviewed this bottle here, I'd have been really hard on this. I think I would. I'm glad now that I gave it the time I did, because it proves that there's good and bad. I'm convinced that there's good and bad in nearly every bottle. Some bottles are just bad, some bottles are good from start to finish, but some can come together, and I definitely think now that I will replace this just to see if maybe my palate has changed. Maybe the bottle didn't change that much. So if, yeah, I definitely think that would be more the thing, rather than claiming that it's Kilchoman's fault that this didn't work. Maybe it was my fault. Maybe it was my palate. There's no fault. Why am I blaming people? Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I would actually recommend it or hold off. How does that sound? I'm saying hold off. And the reason I'm saying hold off, when I say would I recommend it, do you know what I would recommend instead? And it's this. Ardbeg, the Ugadal. Part of the reason why I get my palate gets confused by these two is there are similarities, but sometimes, generally actually, I think one will win out for me, and it'll be Ardbeg. I hadn't this will maybe explain this. Until recently, I hadn't really stretched into Ardbeg that far. I just didn't really see the point. I don't know, there was something about it. I liked the 10, I loved the 10. The 5, the 8, so I wasn't really, and I didn't really want to dive too far into all these non-aged stated whiskies. But, yet again, a lot of people were recommending to me the Ugadal. So I bought a bottle. And now I've bought this one. That's not that long ago. And this one's been opened as well. So that is not that long ago at all. As a matter of fact, this was probably within this series. As a matter of fact, it was within this series that I talked about the Ardbeg 8-year-old for discussion, and people said to me, you should try the Ugadal. And I bought a bottle, and as I say, I've since replaced it and opened this one. So, Kilchoman Sanaig, great now, yes, great. This is quality. The Ugadal, there's just something that is where you take sherry influence on smoke, on peated whiskey, and really make it work. Don't get me wrong, the Kilchoman's good, but there's still maybe there's a wee hint of the young pretender there as compared to what Ardbeg are doing. Doesn't make Ardbeg perfect by any means, but I'm just saying that if you like Kilchoman Sanaig, give this a go. Or if you're thinking of buying Kilchoman Sanaig, perhaps you should give the Ardbeg Ugadal a go first if you haven't already done so. That's maybe a better suggestion. Right. That's about all I'm going to say about that. That's that done. Can't thank you enough for joining me, as usual. Thank you very, very much to my patrons. if you should wish to join that group. As per usual, the details about it are in the video description below, as I just said. I think I'm losing it a bit this one. Don't know what's going on. Review number 150. Is that it? Have I peaked at 150? Anyway, thank you so much for joining me, my friends. Until the next time, here's to your good health. Cheers. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Please click and subscribe to be notified of further content.